Trust is a pretty powerful thing. When we ask someone to trust them, or when we ask them to trust us, or they ask you to trust them, I dare say there are few things that are quite as vulnerable and powerful as that. Some people may say love, but then again, there are people that we trust that we don't love, and there are people that we love that unfortunately we can't trust. The first reading this morning, God is asking for Abram's trust. And it's a pretty crazy scenario. Abram in Mesopotamia, in the cradle of civilization, is being told, head out west, and all the dreams will come true. Leave everything. Leave your family, leave your livelihood, go west. And the response we hear from Abram is that he puts his trust in God and does as God says. Trust isn't just a simple one-time thing. It's a process. So we often have to give people continued reasons for their trust in us. And the context of the second reading from Paul, we'll see that. It's not just what Paul is saying to Timothy, it's why Paul is saying that to Timothy. Timothy as a bishop, or modern-day equivalent of a bishop, has presbyters at this point that are kind of running wild. He's always under prosecution from the Jewish authorities or the Roman Empire, and he's now had false prophets appear who are confusing the message that Paul has given to him. He's put his initial trust in Paul, been baptized, decided to follow Christ, but now things are becoming a little confused. Paul himself is facing regular imprisonment and is starting to doubt as well. And it's under that context he writes this message to Timothy saying, keep your trust in me. This is the path God has told us. And what's more, I'm doing the same thing. Paul is providing a reason to trust him by way of his own example. The Transfiguration is another example, and of course, Jesus provides the greatest reason for continued trust. It starts when he goes to Peter, James, John, says, throw down your nets, trust me. I have the words of everlasting life. Leave your families, follow me around, leave your livelihood, trust me. And things seem to be going well. Jesus is doing miracles. He's casting out demons. He's giving them words they've never heard. And ultimately, we get to the point where Peter famously says, you are the Messiah. You are the Christ. But at this point, Jesus throws the monkey wrench in. He says, your Messiah is going to suffer. He's going to die. He's going to be handed over to the authorities. And it's this leading into the Transfiguration. It's this confusion at which the Transfiguration happens. We have to imagine that having just affirmed that you're the Messiah, we now hear you're going to die, and I'm going to have to pick up my own cross. So with that, Jesus gives them an example of trust that we can only imagine. He says, it's not enough that you believe that I'm the Messiah and see what I've done. I'm going to show you that I am the Messiah, that I am God, and does so. And does it not to show anyone else, but to firm up their flagging trust. About 6 years ago, we asked for your initial trust with the Vision2020 project. It was about 2019 when it came together and we thought we had a firm plan and we thought this project was going to be about $12 million. And our plan was sound. We had about $6 million that we had saved, invested, and taken advantage of a bullish market. And we matched that with about another $6 million that came through our capital campaign that's always ongoing. But then we know the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse showed up. The first one was the flood in Ellicott City. The flood delayed everything from a permitting standpoint indefinitely, which allowed those costs to keep rising. The second one, of course, was a pandemic, which again pushes that delay even further, to the point where we don't get our permits until 2022, 3 years after we thought we would begin this construction. The third horseman is inflation. We take what we had prudently planned for of $12 million and push that, last night I got a gasp, of slightly less than $20 million. Not to be outdone, we thought that we would see some dip in our regular offerings, our weekly offerings. Didn't happen during the pandemic, didn't even happen last year. But sure enough, this year, we've now seen that our regular offerings are down about 6%, the fourth member of the apocalypse. I didn't come here this morning to give you just bad news. And when I prayed this week on this, I too want to give you many reasons for your continued trust in this project. The first of this is that we have a plan. Everyone always knows that there's budget overruns, and maybe that 12 million would go a little bit higher. And that's why capital campaigns continue and are continuing. We expect that that's going to go higher, and that will always bring in additional funds. Those gifts don't stop. We also have a plan to be able to cover whatever shortfall that may be. And we do have a loan from the Archdiocese approved. But as with your mortgage, we want to bring that down to a reasonable level. We want to be at about $3 to $4 million on that loan. The second reason for your continued trust, and that's your parish staff and leadership. Every single person is working to take care of every single dollar that is given here. From an amazing finance team of Christine and Judy, who are unbelievable in how they manage things, to Stephen, who's putting up, has a PhD in music and is finding a way to do videos to keep enthusiasm going, to Cindy, who, when she thought she was going to help youth ministry do their budget and is now wearing a hard hat with 40,000 pounds of paper on her desk as a project manager, to the other side of the hall that I probably don't see as much, to our youth ministry and our social programs that are dealing with different spaces and making it work, to our parish leadership. Father John, to this point, has already cut millions from the project, things that he thinks we can't afford and are not critically necessary have already been removed. This isn't a wish list, this is what we need to do. Not to mention our social ministry side, youth ministry, and our adult formation are working under less than great circumstances. Your parish staff is doing everything they can to make this project come to fruition. But the third reason for your trust, it's always the best reason, and it's found in the readings today. Never has anyone put their trust in God and been disappointed. Abram puts his trust in God, and his descendants are greater than the stars in the sky. Paul and Timothy continue their trust in God. And what we have now is a Catholic church of over 1 billion people. The apostles put their trust in God, and they get something better than a transfiguration. They get a resurrection. They get to live forever. So this morning, I leave you asking wholeheartedly to please keep your trust in this project, and I have every confidence together we're going to get this done. May God bless us.